want to talk to you about overcoming objections in the home and why the best salespeople don't handle objections better. They actually prevent them earlier. So here's the pieces that lead homeowners to objection. Number one, poor discovery. Not asking enough questions, not asking the right questions, staying too technical, and not getting to how the technical is actually impacting their day-to-day. Weak qualification, right? I'm not having the financial conversation because I feel awkward about that, right? Or I'm a little bit timid about that. And I don't really know how they're going to buy, who's going to be part of that buying process. Or unclear value, right? They don't really know what they're buying. It's not clear to them that what I'm selling them or what I'm offering them as a solution is actually going to deal with their issue. And so because I've got these three things, one, two, or all three of them in play, that leads to an objection at the end, right? Hey, you know what? I appreciate the information, but I think I need to think this over just for a few days. Or, hey, you know what? This is super helpful, but I typically like to get 3 estimates. I'm going to get 2 more next week. And if it makes sense in the end, I'll call you back. Poor discovery, weak qualification, and unclear value lead to that outcome. So here's the biggest lie, right? And I've thought this before. I've seen so many salespeople and technicians think this before. I just need a better comeback, right? So, hey, when somebody tells me I need to get multiple estimates, like, what's that thing I need to say? I need that script. Like, what would this sales guru say? Give me that script. I'm going to memorize it. So the next time I hear that, hey, I always get 3 estimates, or hey, I need to think about it. What's that thing I need to say? That's a myth. There's some usefulness to being able to handle those conversations in a better way than maybe what you're doing presently. But it's not true that more scripts equal more sales. It's absolutely not. It's not true that better rebuttals equal more closes. It's not true that more persuasion equals fewer objections. Here's the reality. If objections are continuing to appear over and over and over again, that is almost always a process problem, not a language problem. And if I can refine and elevate my process, my sales process, what does it look like? What does it sound like from cold to close? I'm going to be positioned to not just have a fancy script to handle objection at the finish line, but to be able to prevent objections along the way. So here's the deal. Objections are symptoms. That's all they are. Okay. They're not this big mountain for you to overcome. They're not this Mount Everest for you to scale or try to get to the top of the deal. Like, they're just a symptom. Here's the other thing to know. The objection itself is rarely the real issue. Every objection points to something missing upstream, right? Maybe it's a clarity gap. Hey, it's too expensive. What they're really telling you is, I don't think I see the value. I mean, I know you're telling me this is $5,000, but to me, this isn't worth more than 2. Or maybe there's a confidence gap. They're telling you I need to think about it, right? What they're really saying is, I don't feel certain yet. There's one thing, 2 things, something doesn't feel right about this yet for me to be able to put the credit card down, right? Or there's an urgency gap. Hey, we just, we like to get a few quotes. Want to get some more, right? So we're gonna get some more quotes over the next week or 2, and we'll reach out if it makes sense to do business in the end. But hey, we appreciate the information, right? The problem doesn't feel urgent enough. These are all issues that are created upstream early in the process, right? And so I want to have a process where I have the courage to ask the questions that brings those objections out in advance, because they're there. I want to bring them in advance so I can deal with them early on in my terms and timing, early in the process, instead of on their terms and timing at the finish line. Because when I get to that finish line, I want to be able to close with ease and with minimal resistance. So here's the deal. We want to prevent first, right? Our goal is to prevent those objections first. I may still have to handle some at the end, right? I want to be equipped to be able to do that effectively. But the first thing I want to do is try to prevent them in advance. And here's where objections are created. Shallow discovery, right? Ask a few questions. Questions are probably generally technical in nature. I'm not effectively qualified. I don't really know who's part of this buying process. Are you I don't even know if you're the one who's going to be making the decision. I don't know how you're going to pay for it. I don't know if you can afford it. There's unclear value. There's no decision alignment. I've set no agenda for the appointment, no expectation for a decision, right? 90% plus of objections are originating earlier in the conversation, right? And so I want to refine what that earlier part of the conversation looks like so I can be in a position to prevent them instead of just handle them at the end. Why homeowners typically push back? Problem's not uncovered. Did the homeowner fully own the problem? Or did I tell them why it's a problem, right? There's a difference. And I may know all the impacts of that particular issue and what happens if they don't do it. I can tell them those things, right? Or I can back up and slow down. And I can ask a question that leads them to say out loud the things I want to say to them. Because again, whose words weigh more in that homeowner's ears? Your words or their words? Their words. And so there may be statements I want to make. There may be things I want to tell them. But how can I reframe that in my mind so that I'm asking a question that leads them to that outcome instead of me giving them that outcome? All right, number 2, the impact is not expanded. Like, do they really understand what happens if nothing changes? Or is this issue going to exist in isolation forever? Maybe we just deal with it. Number 3, the value is not established. Did they connect the solution to what matters most to them? right? Number 4, decision process is unclear. Like, did you discuss how they make decisions together? Do you know how they make, what is their decision-making process? Urgency is not created. Number 5, do they understand the cost of not waiting? Because if they don't understand the cost of not waiting, they're going to be positioned to get more estimates, to think about it, to sleep on it, get back to you in a week or 2, ghost you for 30 days, because there is no urgency. They think that this problem exists in isolation, and whether I solve this problem now or I solve this problem in 30 days, there's really no impact. So here's the most common objection. I think the price is a little high. I think the price, it's more than we were thinking we'd have to pay. I think it's too expensive, to be honest with you, right? So here's what you hear as a technician. Hey, the price is just too high for us right now. But here's what they mean. I don't see enough value to justify that price point. Right? Or here's what you may be thinking as a technician or a salesperson. When they tell you the price is too high, you might be thinking they can't afford it. But the fact is they may be able to afford it. They just don't see the value yet. And if I don't clarify which of the two it is, I may be solving the wrong problem moving forward from here. People pay willingly for safety and comfort. I mean, what people spend in the cars, right? I have a minivan. I have a top-of-the-line minivan that I got because I have 4 kids. People pay for safety and comfort. People pay for vacations and vehicles. They pay for the convenience and peace of mind, right? The homeowner who's telling you it's too expensive, or the homeowner who's telling you, hey, I got to be honest, I typically go with a cheaper price, or, I just need the cheapest price, is the same homeowner who has a $1,400 phone sitting on the table next to them when they could have purchased a $400 phone that does everything that $1,400 phone does. So the next time that a homeowner tells you, hey, you just need the cheapest price, I'm not saying argue with them, but hold in the back of your mind skepticism towards that, because I guarantee you could probably look around and realize they're telling me one thing, but everything I can observe about their life is telling me something different. Here's the deal. Ultimately, if value isn't clear, price will always be the objection. Here's another one. Hey, you know what? This is helpful information, but I think I need to think it over. Give me a few days to think it over, and I'll get back to you, and we'll see, right? Here's what most technicians and salespeople hear. They just need time, right? They need a little bit of time to think it over, to process the information. But here's what top performers hear. They don't need time. They need clarity, right? And here's what I find is that if you give someone who's unclear time does not make something unclear more clear. It typically makes something unclear more unclear. So if they're telling me they need time, this is an open door. This is an opportunity that I've got to step into to create clarity, because there's something holding them back in their mind, right? Something feels unclear, something feels risky, something feels unresolved. People rarely delay decisions that they feel confident about. So if there's a delay that's at play, this is an opportunity for me to figure out what it is, because time is not on my side. In fact, if you look at most of the times that somebody tells you this sounds pretty good, I need to think about it, I would venture to guess that the vast majority of the time, that's the last conversation you'll ever have with that homeowner. So we've got to step into that open door when it's open. Here's the framework, right? This is really simple. So instead of giving you some fancy script or way to approach specific objections to memorize, just to say the next time they say that, just remember this framework. AQA. Acknowledge, right? This is going to lower their resistance. Instead of me being defensive, coming back at what they're saying, I'm going to acknowledge what they're saying. Okay, hey, that makes sense. I can understand that. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a question. And the point of the question is to find the real concern, to peel the layers back on what they're telling me, understanding that what they're telling me is probably just a symptom. I want to get to the root cause, because I can't solve symptoms. I want to solve the root cause. Hey, so what specifically is giving you pause right now, right? And then I want to ask or advance. Actually, I think I like advance better. Acknowledge, question, advance. I want to move forward together. I want to advance that conversation. Hey, if we were to resolve that, would you feel comfortable moving forward today? So I don't need a fancy script. I just need the framework, and I need to walk that framework no matter what the objection is, right? So if they tell you, hey, I typically get multiple estimates. Look, you're the first stop. I've got 2 more next week. So I want to see that through. And if it makes sense in the end, I'll be happy to reach out. Okay, let's walk through it. AQA, acknowledge, question, advance. Hey, look, I can understand that. Obviously, this is a big decision. I'm not surprised that you might say that. But hey, if I could ask you, Mr. Jones, what is it you're hoping to find in those other 2 estimates? And then stay silent. And here's what I think you might find sometimes. I would say maybe 25 to 50% of the time, the homeowner is going to start fumbling their words, because you're asking them a question they've never asked themselves before, right? Well, I just, I always get 3. Hey, absolutely, I can understand that. But for you specifically, what is it you hope you're going to find? And they can't answer the question, because 30 years ago, their dad told them, hey, you always get 3 estimates. And for 30 years, they've always gotten 3 estimates, but nobody's ever asked them why. They've never asked themselves why. And you're creating this opportunity where they're like, I can't really answer that question why. And so now that I've acknowledged it, I've asked the question, I'm stepping into that void, and I'm going to advance that conversation towards clarity now, because in the absence of their ability to tell me what they're looking for, I'm going to go back and say, hey, does this solve your problem today? Let's take care of this now. If there's no other missing pieces for you, right? Acknowledge, question, advance. It's simple, it's professional, it's effective. And it keeps the conversation focused on understanding, right? Really understanding where they're coming from, peeling the layers back on the symptom of that objection, and not defending the price. The more you defend, the more they'll resist you. So here's what most reps do, right? They're gonna talk more, they're gonna add more features, they're gonna explain harder, right? They're gonna push for the close. And all you're gonna get is more resistance pressing back upon that defensiveness. But here's what top performers do. You're gonna slow down, you're gonna get curious, right? You're gonna ask questions, peel the layers back on what they're telling you. Understanding there's more to be discovered here. You're gonna ask another question, and you're gonna seek to understand. The result is not gonna be more resistance. The result is gonna be more clarity, both for you, so you understand really where the homeowner is coming from, but it's going to help position more clarity in their mind as well, so that now they can be in a decisive state. The first objection, again, is rarely the real objection. The fastest path forward is a question, not an explanation. What the homeowner is actually thinking, right? They're not trying to beat you. They're trying to avoid making a bad decision. Hey, am I making the right decision? Like, I need reassurance, not pressure. Can I trust this recommendation or these recommendations you're giving me, right? Trust is built through discovery, not through pitching. They want to know, like, will this actually solve my problem, right? They need to own that outcome and believe that it will. And is it worth it? The value must outweigh the investment clearly. When confidence rises, objections fall. When uncertainty rises, objections always increase. The best objection handling is prevention. Okay? Before you present a solution, run through this checklist. Here's your discovery checklist. Have they clearly owned the problem? Have they expressed the impact? Have they acknowledged the consequences of not waiting, right? Here's my alignment checklist. Have they discussed their decision timeline? Have they discussed who makes that decision? Who's part of that process? And have they connected value to their specific stated concern? Look, when the groundwork is done, objections become dramatically easier to handle, or honestly, sometimes, in the best cases, they never appear at all. Objections are signals. That's all they are. They're not roadblocks, right? So the next time you receive an objection, don't feel like you're at the end of the road. Don't feel like you're at the base of Everest and you got to figure out how to scale that thing. They're just a signal. And I'm going to acknowledge that signal. I'm going to ask a question about that signal, and I'm going to advance that conversation forward, right? Investigate. Objections reveal what's missing. Ask what was missed earlier. Question. Questions uncover truth faster than any explanation will. Clarify. Clarity creates confidence. Confidence drives decisions. And prevent. Fix the process upstream. And objections disappear before they happen. Most objections aren't the problem. They're the symptom. And when you, through your process, through your questions, right, through the finesse in which you can peel the layers back on what's really going on in their mind, you're going to be more positioned to create confidence for them that positions their mind to say, hey, I trust this person. I trust this solution. There's a risk to me waiting.